Hello everyone, I'm Colin Canet. I haven't done any tips and tricks for quite a while, so let's jump in and get started with some. But before I do, I want to mention that towards the end of this video, I have an update on a previous video, an important message, and I also have another message at the very end of this video on a sort of a flash sale from MagSwitch, so you want to check in for that as well. So anyway, let's get started with our first tip. This tip is from a friend of mine, Steve, and Steve's suggestion is to fasten wiping rags around your workbench or around your glue-up bench. And that's a great idea because whenever you're doing glue-ups, and I know Debbie and Steve are in a production shop doing glue-ups and things like that all the time, if you get a little bit of glue on a piece of fresh wood, when you go to finish it and you don't notice it, it will ruin that finish. So it's happened to many of us, and this is a great way of keeping your hands clean as you go along. I try and leave rags on top of my shop, but if I don't, then I'm running around looking for something to wipe my hands on, and this is a great solution. So thanks for sending that in, Steve. This tip is from Michael, and Michael suggests if you have some of these anti-fatigue mats and you find that they're moving around on your floor, what his suggestion is to use a little bit of this Elmer's glue, and this is just a glue stick. You put a little bit on the back, and depending on what your floor is, you just wipe it along the back, along a streak, and when you put that back down, it really tends to hold them. Now, it's not working on my floor because I have an anti-skid material that I put down and this glue isn't working with it. But if you have a floor that's a little bit slippery and you're using anti-fatigue mats, apparently this is a good little tip to try, and it's inexpensive as well. And anyway, you'll get to use the glue for something else anyway. So thanks for that, Michael. This tip is from Jim in Colombia, who's already sent lots of good tips to us. And what his suggestion this time is if you have a remote control for your dust collector, one great way of keeping it from going from machine to machine, because I like to turn it off between operations, is to tie it to one of these keychain holders. And he has sent me a picture where he actually has his in the top pocket of his work jeans, so he can just pull it out, click it on, and then release it, and it's always with him. For me, it wouldn't work because I don't have a top pocket, and it would interfere with my microphone, but it's a really good idea. Now, as a refresher, for those of you who don't know what I do with mine, and I've done this for a long time, I have one of these, you can buy these things, they're inexpensive, a little magnet on the end for picking up things off the floor. But because I have a drop ceiling, I can attach that to my drop ceiling, and I have a magnet. Guess what? Another magnet on the bottom of it there. And now I can just take this and move it around from machine to machine, and that way, that's my solution to a place to hold my. So there you got a couple of different options of where you can hold your remote for your dust collector. This tip is from Gerda, and she's working with round, sort of flowing projects from time to time. And when she's, if you've ever tried to measure round, anything round or curved, with a tape measure, it's really difficult. So what she suggests is getting a cloth tape. Now, these are fairly inexpensive, and you know what? I just checked this one. They're very, very accurate. And look at, it just flows over things. It's great to have something like this as a backup for these times when you've got ovals or circles. Maybe it's curves that you need to measure. That's a great idea, Gerd. I'm going to have one of these on hand. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. And this one from John is one of those. He suggests whenever you're working in tight corners, and maybe, for example, it's the inside of a box and you've got a glue line in there, you're trying to get the extra glue out, he suggests using a little toothbrush, and you can get right in there, right into all of the corners with a little toothbrush. You could put a little bit of dampness on it and clean that right up. That's such a great idea. Thanks, John. This tip is from Tony, and for the purpose of this tip, I've made a little bit of a mock-up here. If you can imagine, this is a 3 or 4-legged little table leg, and these are the legs down here. What he's suggesting, he had encountered a time where he had to re-glue some legs on, and he didn't have a proper clamp. So what he did, with some of these clamps, you can actually reverse them. Now, some of them, I have lots of these, and they don't reverse, but I also have some of these, and they reverse. And if you look at them closely, you'll notice some of them have a little screw or a little bolt head on them. So basically you take that off and you flip it around upside down and you put it on this side, and then you get something that looks like this, and it pushes apart. And what Tony is suggesting is that if you're in a place where you don't have the right clamp, what you can do sometimes is push the things together. Now, I can't because I have a drop ceiling in my shop, but what he did in his, and he showed me a picture of it, where he had something up in touching his, I think it was his ceiling, and I'm going to try and see if I can mimic that here. I have to be careful this whole thing isn't going to come tumbling down, but I think you'll get the idea anyway. So basically, there it is. So he's thinking outside the box and thinking, how can I clamp this? What can I do? So he reversed his clamps, and presto, he's got a very good clamping situation. I'm not going to put any more pressure on that, but you can see the point. So thanks, Tony. That's a really good reminder on spreading rather than pulling together to get the same effect. A couple of quick announcements. First one is a heads up. I received an email from the Red Cross a few weeks ago. They're concerned that I had suggested that you could burn your old pallet wood in your fireplace. And their reason for their concern is they'd been called to an incident where somebody had passed away because they'd been burning pallet wood that had been in a chemical spill in the stove in their workshop. So their concern, as I was, that, you know, we never know where pallet wood comes from. So you really need, and I know there's tons of you that use it out there. So, you know, you really need to be careful with this kind of wood. The second thing is, on a little happier note, the nice folks at Mag Tools, and all of you will know that I have an affiliation with them. They are giving us a 4-day flash sale on Mag Tools. And you've seen me using these mag switches on all sorts of jigs that I use in my workshop. If you've ever been considering whether you should be getting a set of these or not, now might be the time to do that. It's only for 4 days. And you know what? Even if you don't, it's fun just to go there and have a look around and see what they have for sale. That concludes my video for today. I'm Colin Canet for WoodWorkWeb. Thanks for watching.